not every Disney movie translates to box office gold. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 biggest Disney movie flops.
We're not haunted by mortality, as you are. We are eternal.
For this list, we're taking a look at Disney movies that didn't reach the level of financial gain they were hoping for.
May all of the exhibits in this hall shine with the light of human knowledge.
Number 10, Mr. Magoo.
Oh, Stacy, aren't you a sight for sore eyes?
When people think of the worst movies based on classic cartoons, Mr. Magoo is a title that instantly comes to mind. This bumbling comedy is essentially one joke stretched out to 91 minutes. The title character has poor eyesight. That's it.
You're the ugliest child I've ever seen.
The film's depiction of the visually impaired left many blind and nearsighted people offended, causing Disney to add a disclaimer. Meanwhile, everyone else was offended that the film wasn't funny, not to mention a waste of Leslie Nielsen's talent. It wasn't at all surprising when the studio pulled Mr. Magoo from theaters after only 2 weeks.
Don't worry, my boy, we'll catch him on the turnaround.
The movie grossed a mere $21 million during its short-lived theatrical run, failing to match its relatively low budget of $30 million.
Oh, Magoo, you've done it again.
Number 9, Home on the Range.
It's payback time. Cover me! With what?
Back in the early 2000s, Disney's traditional animated features just weren't connecting with audiences like they used to. If the studio wanted to bounce back from their previous financial flops, investing over $100 million in a musical about talking cows probably wasn't the best idea.
You go, cowgirl. That's using the old hack.
In an age that gave us numerous sophisticated animated movies with mass appeal, Home on the Range seemed like the biggest step backwards Disney could take.
Bovine bounty hunters. Now I've seen everything.
The public showed little interest in seeing this corny flick, resulting in a hefty write-down. The film's box office returns were so disappointing that the Mouse House gave up on 2D animated features until The Princess and the Frog.
These two ain't like no frogs I ever seen. They smart.
And we talk, too.
Number 8, The Country Bears.
Oh no! Country Bear Hall has been crushed!
If Pirates of the Caribbean proved anything, it's that movies based on theme park attractions can work.
You will always remember this as the day that you almost caught Captain Jack Sparrow.
A year before Disney struck gold with Jack Sparrow, though, they brought the Country Bear Jamboree to the big screen.
Everything will be alright. You're gonna find a way to go.
The Country Bears is far from the most expensive film on this list, costing $35 million to make. Yet even with a modest budget, it still couldn't turn a profit.
What is that?
That's a sign.
Grossing roughly $18 million overall, The Country Bears proved too weird for kids, too juvenile for adults, and too dopey for modern audiences in general. To be fair, Christopher Walken's bizarre performance was beyond priceless, though.
This is not over! Yes!
Number 7, Newsies.
Now is the time to seize the day.
Now is the time to seize the day.
Send out the call and join the fray.
Send out the call and join the fray.
In 1992, composer Alan Menken took part in one of Disney's biggest hits ever, Aladdin. That same year, however, Menken also contributed to one of Disney's lowest-grossing live-action movies ever, Newsies.
Hey, Jan, I object.
A musical about the Newsboys' strike of 1899. Newsies made under $3 million on a $15 million budget.
For a dreamer, night's the only time of day when the city's finally sleeping.
Despite being a failure upon initial release, the film would gain a dedicated following on home media. It even inspired an acclaimed Broadway show, which resulted in Menken and Jack Feldman taking home their first Tony Awards.
It ain't what they say, it's what we say. And nobody ain't gonna listen to us unless we make them.
The moral of this story? Just because something doesn't succeed at first doesn't mean it'll never amount to anything.
Never fear, Brooklyn is here.
Number 6, Treasure Planet.
My memory isn't what it used to be. I lost my mind. I've lost my mind. You haven't found it, have you?
Another early 2000s animated feature that crashed and burned. Treasure Planet made $109.6 million on a $140 million budget. Unlike Home on the Range, though, this science fiction adventure actually had critical praise and an Oscar nomination on its side.
Very good!
So why did the film leave such a small impression at the box office? Maybe the idea of Treasure Island in outer space was too out there for mainstream audiences.
Look at you, glowing like a solar fire.
The fact that it had to compete with Harry Potter probably didn't help either.
Ron, I should tell you, most muggles aren't accustomed to seeing a flying car.
In any case, Treasure Planet was sunk, ultimately losing an estimated $85 million.
Oh no, you don't!
Number 5, The Lone Ranger.
Why am I covered in dirt? Because I buried you. Why am I alive?
Disney had high hopes that The Lone Ranger would be their next Pirates of the Caribbean. Heck, they even enlisted the same director and star behind that blockbuster franchise. Unfortunately for the studio, this Western was a bomb of epic proportions.
What's your crime, boy?
Indian.
You wouldn't think that Disney would throw too much money at a movie based on an old-school radio show. But for some reason, though, they decided to spend $225 million on production costs, as well as $150 million on marketing.
Bad trade.
Grossing $260.5 million overall. The Lone Ranger alienated audiences with its relentless runtime, muddled plot, and the controversial casting of Johnny Depp as Native American Tonto.
Great shot.
That was supposed to be a warning shot.
In that case, not so good.
Number 4, Tomorrowland.
If you glimpsed the future, were frightened by what you saw, what would you do with that information?
On paper, Tomorrowland seemed like a surefire success. George Clooney is one of the most charming actors in the business, and director Brad Bird has made one classic after another.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Despite all the talent involved, however, this futuristic mystery just didn't entice audiences. What's worse, Disney spent an estimated $330 million on the film's production and marketing campaign.
The future can be scary.
On a visual level, you can certainly see where most of that money went. In terms of storytelling, though, many felt the film failed to take flight.
Do you want to tell this story?
No, you're doing fine.
Because if you think you could tell this story better, I would absolutely love to hear you try.
Wow, really?
Really?
By the end of its box office run, Tomorrowland brought in just over $200 million, losing the studio somewhere between $120 million and $140 million.
Dreamers need to stick together. It's programming. It's personal.
Number 3, The Black Cauldron.
You're charming. And pungent, too.
Following Walt Disney's death in 1966, the animation studio entered one of its darkest eras financially. But this fantasy adventure was Disney's biggest box office letdown yet.
I'm Princess Alonwe. Are you a lord or a warrior?
No. I'm an assistant pig keeper.
At the time of its release, The Black Cauldron was the most expensive animated feature ever, with a price tag of $44 million. The film didn't even make back half of its substantial budget, accumulating a total of $21.3 million.
Now, pig keeper, you shall die.
As if that's not bad enough, it actually made less money than the Care Bears movie, which came out that same year.
Everyone okay? Cheer Bear? I think so.
Although it has a somewhat infamous reputation, The Black Cauldron has also achieved a cult following in recent years. So perhaps audiences missed out back in the 80s.
Pridane's finest warrior draws his last breath.
Number 2, John Carter.
You kindly just stand behind me. This might get dangerous.
Over the years, Disney has taken countless risks that have paid off. Alas, for every film that succeeds against all odds, there's a gamble that simply wasn't worth taking. John Carter is one of the most notorious examples of the latter in the company's history.
I wished to believe it was a sign that something new can come into this world.
On the whole, Disney spent $350 million producing and advertising this adaptation of A Princess of Mars. However, All the money in the world couldn't save John Carter from generic characters, a clunky story, and a severe lack of originality.
It's a shame, really.
The film not only amounted to a $200 million write-down, but also caused Rich Ross to resign as head of the studio.
Just tell me I went home.
Before we get to our top pick, here are some honorable, or in this case dishonorable, mentions.
He must be the 11th tiger.
His brains ran down!
Oh, if his brains ran down, how could he talk?
It happens to people all the time, Jack.
Number 1. Mars Needs Moms.
I thought I told you to go to bed.
You told me to go to bed. You didn't say get into bed.
People are generally divided when it comes to motion-captured animated films. Some find them visually stunning, while others find them creepy. Either way, we can all agree that the style feels out of place in a wacky space comedy like Mars Needs Moms.
We were not meant to being raised by machines. We were meant to being raised by families.
Audiences could immediately sense that this movie was going to blow, leading to a dismal opening weekend. It didn't do much better in the weeks to come, ultimately making $39 million on a massive budget of $150 million.
Fact is, Mars needs moms.
What the heck does that mean?
Reaching an all-time low, the film stands out as the Disney brand's biggest financial dud to date. It also motivated Disney to close down Image Movers Digital, a joint venture they had established back in 2007 with the film studio known as Image Movers.
What is she talking about?
Do you agree with our list? What do you think is Disney's biggest flop?
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Robbery.
We don't have no money here, boy.
For more entertaining top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.